Hi there, welcome to Floating in Books. Today's video is going to be 5 book series that I want to get to as soon as possible. Welcome to everybody watching. Thank you so very much for joining me today. In today's video, I want to chat to you about 5 book series that I want to get to as soon as possible. I did an overview of 15 book series that I would like to read that are still unread on my shelves a couple of months ago, and I'm now just really going like, okay, which ones do I prioritize? Which ones do I want to get to as soon as possible of these 15 book series? And I'm not sure how feasible it is to have the wish to finish 5 book series in 2023. I mean, we're almost already at the halfway point, if not like right on the cusp of it. So I'm not sure that's going to be feasible, but that being said, I think 2 or 3 book series to finish this year could be a nice aim to have that there. I also feel that book series can sometimes slow down my reading, and I like to therefore, switch up whenever I've read a book from a series, switch it up with something that I find a bit quicker to read, because that way I can keep it interesting for myself. So that's why it usually takes a bit longer for me to finish book series. I tend to not just go through a book series in one sitting. I never tend to do that. So I've already talked about all 5 of these series when I did that other video a couple of months ago, but today I really want to get down and dirty as to why I want to prioritize these. Starting things off with the book series that I'm currently going to get stuck into. As I'm filming this, I'm about to start this book, Red Sister by Mark Lawrence. And the reason why I want to get to this is because it has been on my bookshelves for quite some time. And it's just a book series that sounds really intriguing. And I just finished Brandon Sanderson's Mistborn trilogy, and I was like, okay, I want fantasy, but I want it to be dark. And I also want it to be just a bit mysterious as well. And I was like, you know what? Assassin Nuns sounds like it might be right up my street. So that's why I decided to go with this one. I'm going to be taking this with me to Paris. As I'm filming this, I'm going to be going to Paris for a few days. And I thought that this book is thin enough for it to fit into my bag because I'm only going for one night. So I only want to take a small backpack with me. So I didn't want to take too bulky of a book. And this is about 500 pages or so. And it's got pretty decent typesetting. And I was like, this is a good size. I can read it on the train as I'm traveling. And it's not too heavy either, which is where this selection actually came from. Because there are other books here that I was considering. And I was like, this is a bit too big. I don't think I'd carry that around with me. This is a bit heavy. So I definitely do want to get to this one for that reason. And I think I might really like it. It seems to be the kind of writing that I enjoy. I have heard, however, that this author is quite controversial. I don't really know about the controversy. I tried Googling it a couple of times, but I've never been able to really get down to the nitty-gritty of why this author became canceled. But yeah, this is, at the time this was raved about, a lot of people were saying how cool this is. It's about a convent where girls are raised to be killers. And I love a good assassin story. So that's why I wanted to prioritize this. I am going to give this a chance, however, just for the first book. And if it's the experience I've had with the Brandon Sanderson books where I'm like, the first book was okay, but I didn't love it, I think I may just declutter the other 2 books from my shelves if that happens to me with this one. I'm at the point where I'm like, I have to love it for me to continue it, especially if it's an older book series like this one. Then I'm desperate to get back into some historical fiction, so I'd love to read Rotherweird by Andrew Caldecott. This one is on the lower end of this list though. If I had to rank this would not make the top part of the list. I think this is going to be enjoyable. It sounds really dark and mysterious from what I can get from the blurb on the back. It's set in Tudor England. There's this mystery going on. Let me see. Rotherweird is still bound by its ancient laws. Nobody studies the town or its history. And then somebody arrives and he unburies all of the secrets. So this sounds really intriguing. It's blurred by Hilary Mantel, and I think I might really like this. It's just one of those things where I'm like, because historical fiction can just be such a brain drain, I'm not always sure I'm gonna love it. So that's why, but the cover is really intriguing, and this is another one that's been on my shelves for such a long time that I'm like, I just really need to get to it and read it. I just need to read it. Now, one of the books that I was considering reading before I decided to start reading Red Sister was Gideon the Ninth by Tamsin Muir. I also have the second book in this series, but I think there's already a third and a fourth one out. I'm a bit behind on buying these, but I've also learned, like, I don't always need to own all of the books in the series to, you know, have them sitting on my shelf in order to start reading the book series. That's absolutely crazy. And the reason why I wanted to start this is this is what it says on the blurb in the cover. It says, Gideon the Ninth unveils a solar system of swordplay, cutthroat politics, and lesbian necromancers. It's science fiction, it's fantasy, and I was like, that sounds like something I might like. It sounds super intriguing. I believe Tamsin Muir is a German author, if I'm not mistaken. So these are translated from German. Maybe I should read them in German instead. I'm not sure my German is quite cut out to be able to reading fantasy, though. My German is okay-ish, but nothing to write home about. So yeah, this is definitely a book series I want to get stuck into at some point. But because this is a hardback and it's a little heavier, I thought it wasn't going to be the best travel companion this time round. It's about as long. It's about 440 pages. That seems to be like a standard size for a book nowadays. So this is one that I think I'm going to be reading after Red Sister. If I've had like a palate cleanser in between, I think I'm going to pick this one up next. And I feel like I'm the only person on the planet who hasn't read The Puppy War yet by R.F. Kuang. And this is one of those book series where I feel I first want to read this before I get to Babel, which is actually a book I really want to get to. Why do I do these things to myself? But yeah, this is how it works in my brain, where I feel like I first need to read those 3 books and then I can read Babel because I think I'm going to love Babel. And the expectation I have is that if I love Babel, I'm not gonna like this as much. That's what I'm thinking. This is, again, it's pretty chunky. The edition I have is like over 500 pages for just the first book alone. The typeset is pretty small, so that's why this one is just sitting on my shelf, like waiting to be read for that reason. I've heard great things about this, though. It's apparently about a girl who wants to join the army, but then she like has to pretend to be a boy, and there's like a lot of like dark trigger warning like things in here. I tend to like dark things, so that's usually good. But yeah, I have no clue what else this book series is about. I just need to get to it. I just need to get to it. Again, not sure it's definitely like super high up on the priority list, because I think the last book I want to share with you is the book I actually would prefer reading over this one, because the storyline just intrigues me a little bit more. I'm definitely intrigued with this because it's like about a fantasy setting that like is based on like culture and politics that I know less about, but I am super intrigued with this to know like how this works, how this world has been built. I'm super excited for this, and because so many people have hyped it up. But now that I've read quite a few like super hyped up books that I've heard so many people raving about on Book Talk and BookTube in the past couple of weeks that I just didn't enjoy as much as the hype that it got, I'm just super nervous how much I'm going to like something like this, because if this doesn't live up to the expectations as well, then I just know that my preferences in terms of book reading are just so far out compared to other people on the internet talking about books that I may not love this. So yeah, we'll see. Definitely when I read the Brandon Sanderson books, I was like, this is why I thought I didn't like fantasy, because that sort of confirmed all the fantasy tropes that I sort of don't like. And I'm hoping that any of these books don't have that, but this one in particular, because this was so hyped up that I'm just so scared that I won't like it. So is that a reason to not pick up a book for such a long time? I think that that's definitely something that I have felt over the years, where you know, I've actually just stopped engaging with a lot of book reviewers in the community, because then, you know, people are so excited about these books, and then I want to love it as much as everybody else does. And then I just don't. Very often, I don't love the same things that a lot of book reviewers just do. And then I just go like, well, I didn't like this as much, but yeah, I'm afraid that this will happen to this as well, which is why it's not like top tier, I need to read this ASAP kind of stuff, but still important enough to make it into this top 5. And finally, Jade City by Fonda Lee. The reason why I would prefer reading this over Poppy War is pretty simply because this has like the crime element to it. Because maybe I've misunderstood this because it's been a while since I heard people talking about this, but if I'm not mistaken, it's about 2 families who feud over jade, which is a commodity in this story, in this world, that is very valuable and that is being traded. And these 2 crime families like combat each other over this commodity. That's what I know. I love a good crime story. Give me heists, give me mafia-like underworld kind of practices. That tends to be my jam. So that's why I'm thinking this is going to be more up my street than the R.F. Kuang Poppy War, because that seems to be like a lot of politics and war, which I don't know why, but whenever it's fantasy stories like that, I'm like, can we like do something else? So I hope this will be something else, and that's one of the reasons why this is like up on the list together with Red Sister and Gideon the Ninth, of it being something different that I don't feel I will have read a lot of already, and that, you know, I think I'm going to really enjoy. That's my prediction. That's why this has to be into the top 5, but this is one of the newer book series that I've purchased in the past couple of years, so this hasn't been on my bookshelves for a very long time just yet. But yeah, it's blurbed here by Ken Liu, and he says, an epic drama reminiscent of the best classic Hong Kong gangster films, but taking place in a fantasy metropolis so gritty and well imagined that you'll forget you're reading a book. I mean, if this is like that sort of vibe, that's what I want. I just finished watching Tokyo Vice on HBO Max, and that's also the kind of TV I like. So I'm like, if this book can give me that sort of feeling, I would love that. I would love for that. So even though that's like based on a true story, the TV series is, and this isn't. But yeah, so that's just the kind of thing I like. So that's why I'm predicting I'm going to like this a lot. And that's another thing that I tend to do is if I'm suspecting I'm going to love something, I put it off. Is that just me? Am I crazy for doing that? I'm also that kind of person that if you give me a selection of sweets and I know which one I like best, I'm first going to start eating the things I don't like as much so that I can leave the things I prefer for the end. Am I the only person who does that? Please tell me I'm not crazy. So for book reading, that's also something I do where I kind of put off reading things I think I'm gonna love, again, because I'm afraid I'm not gonna love it. But I also just then really want to sort of plan them into a moment in a year where I know I can give the book the attention it deserves. I'm not sure if I'm making sense. So this, I hope I can get to this over the summertime, like if it's summer break, and then just whiz through 3 books in a week. That's what I'm hoping for this one. I think it's going to be a great summertime read. That's what I'm hoping. Let me know if you've read this one. Let me know what you thought, because there's a part of me that can't wait to read this, and there's a part of me that's like, oh, I hope it's good. I hope it's good. Those are all of the book series that I really want to prioritize on my shelves. You already know what I'm currently reading, because maybe by the time you're watching this, though, I may have already finished the first book. That's the aim. That's the aim. I hope I can read Red Sister in like the next couple of days. I'm filming this during my May vacation, so I should be able to finish this hopefully before the end of this vacation. Fingers crossed. If it's as like slow paced as some of the other books I've been reading in the past couple of months, it's not going to work, but I hope I'm going to enjoy it. So yes, thank you so very much for joining me today. Leave me a comment down below with what books you are looking forward to reading. I would love to know. And yeah, then I hope to see you in my next video. See you next week. Bye-bye.